How to get the people around you, a customer, a client, a prospect, to say yes more often, 3 times more often. It's all about those hidden environmental cues, things that happen around them. It's almost an invisible force that controls most of your customers' decisions, why they say yes. You have to have your logic, but it has to feel right. How can you get it to feel right? It could be a word, it could be an image. Any of those things can change what people do, what they buy, and how persuasive you are. Let's take a dive into priming. Let's do it.
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
Hey, welcome back to Maximize Your Influence, podcast 605. Kurt Mortensen here as we take that deep dive, that priming dive into the world of persuasion, motivation, influence, negotiation, mindset, or self-persuasion as we call it, to get a few tools that'll make you more persuasive and influential. No secret, everything you want in life's on the other side of persuasion and influence. So I heard this story which triggered today's topic. So this young man, young lady, fall in love, sparks are flying. The young man was courageous enough to borrow the convertible car from the girlfriend's father. They drove it a couple hours into the countryside, had a good time, fallen in love, had a little picnic, but her allergies started to bother her, and they decided to drive back into town, but it was getting worse. And she says, I need to take this medication. I didn't want to, it makes me groggy, but I really need to take it. I need to take it with a lot of water. He realized he didn't have the water, the liquid she needed to take it. So as they were driving, they saw this old abandoned red barn, just like you'd see in all the movies. Pulled over, and out in front was one of those old-fashioned pumps, right? The ones you pump up and down. So he started pumping. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes passed, and his muscles starting to ache. 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes passed, and his beads of perspiration on his forehead, about to give up. And his girlfriend says, no, don't give up. The water could be right there. Keep pumping. Do it for me. And he kept pumping. Almost 10 minutes without notice, without fanfare. Cold, refreshing water came gushing out, which is a great lesson on persistence. And in Persuasion Influence, we love persistence. But if you would have known how to prime the pump, that's when a pump's been sitting a while and it's not working, you prime it, it starts to work faster. He could have got it done a lot faster, a lot better if he would have primed the pump. That's what we want to focus on. That's what I want to talk about today. Because you're spending way too much time talking, vomiting the details, talking about the logic, when you could prime the pump right at the beginning of the persuasive presentation to get them to say yes more often and faster. You see, priming is this powerful psychological process when we're exposed to a stimulus. Again, it could be a word, an image, a sound, even your environment. I mean, some stores you feel like nervous and want to leave. Some stores you feel like buying. You're excited to buy. That's what we're looking for. It could even be a gesture that could help or hurt. So if you can plant these seeds, prime the pump, you can change the way people think or feel or behave to what you're asking them to do. And that was the big shocker. When I first started to write Maximum Influence, I was looking at the 12 laws of persuasion, that up to 95% of influence persuasion involves a subconscious trigger of feeling, and you can change those feelings with priming, change them so they feel like buying from you. So priming sets the stage so your message lands more effectively. I'm not talking manipulation, it's just understanding human nature and how the brain works. This is your ability to shape the context, that frame of reference, before you even ask for the sale, before you even ask them to do something. A well-primed prospect is more receptive, it's easier for them to see the value, and they're more likely to say yes. So basically with priming, you're working with the brain's natural wiring instead of against it. Now, it's been called implicit memory effect, framing, anchoring, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it priming today and help you get this tool. Remember our role here at Maximize Your Influence. Your goal is to help people persuade themselves, help them sell themselves. Then you don't get the resistance, and you can do that with priming. So let's get into the persuasion blunder. Don't! Thinking of a particular presentation, they were trying to persuade, they were trying to sell, and they jumped straight into the proposal, right into that pitch, without setting the environment, providing the right mental context to prime them to want to do it. So they started with the logic and their favorite feature. They never set the stage. So this rookie was starting with their problem and getting into price and features without priming their brain to be open, to trust them, to build the value. Because when the brain's not primed, its default setting is what? Risk, being skeptical, and resistance. So if you don't do that positive priming, your message fights against the mental barriers instead of flowing with them. Again, I'm all about the logic and the facts you need. Those numbers have to work, but it has to feel right. So this person was doing tech sales, SaaS sales, if you're familiar with those, software as a service, and they got right to the point. I know you're busy. Our product's cheaper. We could solve your biggest headache. We can do this. But the person's brain was primed with what? Oh, sales call. They're going to try to get me to do something. What if I fail? It's an interruption. They're focusing on my problems without setting the stage. You got to ask yourself, is the time right? Can you make the time right? Can you get them in the right mood, in the right frame of mind? Now, why does this happen most of the time? I mean, you want to cut to the chase. You don't want to waste their time. Maybe you don't have time to prepare. So I think the big one is just urgency. You don't want to waste time, but you are wasting time because you didn't set the stage. You didn't get them in the right mindset. Or not enough time to prepare. You're winging it. You're just throwing these persuasion darts, these sales darts, hoping that one of the features will stick, hoping that they'll assign a benefit to it, and that rarely happens. And I'd add to that too, not reading the situation, not reading the person, just so stressed about delivering value, getting it done, finding their hot buttons where you don't prime the pump. You don't get them in the right frame of mind. So I'd recommend do a little research. The more you know about them, the easier it is to persuade them, and test and track your openers. If you're on the phone and you might only have a couple minutes, what's working, what's not working? Keep track. Don't try the same thing every time. Try some different things to see if you can prime them to get them in the right frame of mind. And we're going to get into some ways to do that. But before we do, let's get into our geeky Scarly article. This is from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. Dr. Barr, Chen, and Burroughs did something really interesting. Found out that priming works, that it is unconscious, it is below the radar, but it can directly influence physical behavior without people's awareness. So what happened is the participants in the studies were primed with elderly-related words. Florida, bingo, wrinkle, those type of words. So words that you would associate with getting old, being old. And they found that the participants, after being primed with those words, walked a lot slower when leaving the lab compared to those primed with neutral words. Now, unrelated study to this one, but pointed the same things where people were doing these word scrambles and half the people got rude words like interrupt, and the other half got polite words like patience, those type of words. And when they were done unscrambling the words, they had to go to the proctor, the person part of the study, and they were talking to someone. They weren't shutting up till they got interrupted. And the ones with the polite words waited a lot longer to interrupt than the ones with the rude words. So there's something about priming with the right word, image, sound, gestures. You have to be so careful that you're priming with the right thing. It's interesting to watch people on Zoom that are doing persuasive presentations of the things they have in the background. And a lot of them will put posters or signs or sayings that prime people to buy. And some people do the opposite, don't even think about it, and they're actually priming people not to buy. So a big takeaway here is priming's not limited to words. Images, smells, music, law of association, if you want to look at it, maximum influence, the physical environment, are all powerful primes. So bottom line, intentionally, think about it before you do it, set a positive prime, a positive context before making your main point or asking them for business. Again, think about the big picture. Is it the office layout, how they're sitting, your website design, your email subject line can be a positive prime or a negative prime. Which brings us to listener email.
Oh boy!
You can contact me at maximizeyourinfluence@gmail.com. The link's also in your email or where you're getting your podcast to contact me. Go to the website, check us out, take your free Persuasion IQ, find out about Influence University and ways to take your life and your income to the next level. All right, Mike Thompson, he's a sales manager, Cleveland, Ohio, United States. Says, Kurt, Persuading with Power, love the podcast, and mastering the 111 sales tools. Awesome. Thanks, Mike. My question is, how do you handle a situation when the prospect's been negatively primed by a bad experience, a competitor, previous vendor? How can I get them back on track? Mike, awesome question. The big one there is you got to separate yourself from that previous experience, get them in the right mindset, the right prime. Now, primes fade over time. They happen fast, but there still could be a bad feeling there about the industry, about a competitor, about something that was said. Separate yourself by focusing on a new positive prime. And that's what I want to get into is, all right, how do we do this? Again, we all persuade and influence for a living. Let's learn how to do this. Now, you notice with our previous study, it was all about word priming. Now, this is deliberately choosing positive, success-oriented words or positive words early in your presentation where they can associate positive concepts. Here's something simple. So I consult with larger companies. We get rid of the sales force. The name sales. I mean, think about it. You're interested. I want more information. I'll check you out. You call up and the receptionist says, let me transfer to sales. That's an instant negative prime. No one wants to be sold. I just want information. Are they going to pressure me? Is this going to take forever? Are they not going to take no for an answer versus, hey, let me get you with a consultant, a representative, customer care, something a little bit different. Every word can attract or repel people. Have a negative prime or a positive prime. Used car, negative prime. Pre-owned sounds a little bit better. You go to a nice steak restaurant. Hey, what's the difference between your filet mignon and your ribeye? Well, the ribeye tends to be a little more marbled. Oh, that sounds fun. That's tasty. It didn't say more fat. It makes a difference. When the brain hears things like easy, successful, win, growth, it primes them to view you and your proposal more favorably. So don't start complicated. Don't start negative. Think about those first words that you're going to be using. Hey, I'm excited to explore a great partnership. We're going to have a smooth transition, strong results. There's going to be great mutual benefit. You don't want to start off with problem, difficult, risk. Things like that will have a negative prime. Apple computers, you look at their marketing. Magical, revolutionary, effortless. That's what they focus on. For example, with my college students, they don't want to take a final. That has bad priming. I call it a celebration of knowledge. Okay, that doesn't work, but it is fun for me to try. I keep trying, never works, but it's fun to try. But it is a different feeling, final versus celebration of knowledge, and how they're going to feel. Then take a look at your environment. Again, this could be your Zoom background, how close your face is on the Zoom call, how your office is set up, where they're sitting. Is it clean? Is it messy? What's on the wall? Your website, the organization, the colors, to the conference room, to even your email design can have subtle things in there that affects people's behaviors or emotions. Because the brain is always scanning, picking things up in the environment for little clues that influence mood, trust, and resistance. So use clean, professional, success-oriented visuals in your materials, in your office. I have a background on my online calls that's a bookshelf full of books. Sometimes I'll use a green screen. Sometimes I'll use a whiteboard. They all trigger different feelings. Think about playing upbeat music before a Zoom call, before a presentation. We talked about this before. People near the Cinnabon store, those cinnamon rolls, more likely to donate charities. Your olfactory system, that smell, it's in the center of your brain, instant feeling. When you smell perfume or cologne of an old boyfriend or girlfriend, is that good? Depends on the breakup, right? But it does trigger a feeling. I like to look at Costco. That is designed to shop. Starbucks. Their environment, the lighting, the music, the aroma primes people to stay, to relax, to buy. Again, you've been to stores before. You're like, ew, I'm leaving. And others where you want to buy. You want to spend time there. That is the environment. So what is the environment around you, whether it be online or physical? Does it prime to the positive or prime to the negative? Here's one. We spent time with this, what was it, last month? No, I think it was the training I did on stories. We'll spend 3 days with leadership and marketing. All right, it's all about the story. So if you can begin your presentation with the short, doesn't have to be that long, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, 4 at the most, a relevant success story, or it could be an analogy that activates positive associations in their brain. Because when you tell a story, it lights up the brain. The brain lives it. They want the solution. They're feeling the emotions. Remember, persuasion is emotional. And the bestest, easiest, quickest, fastest way to trigger an emotion is through a story. Now, I would say relevant success story, someone else with a similar problem, same challenge, same objections. Here's the story. This is what happens. Make sure you have a story ready to go, especially in the beginning, to prime them, to put them in the right frame of mind. Now, for a lot of people, authority or power, it's one of those automatic triggers. When someone's authority, they're the expert, they're credible. That could be a testimonial, a credential. It could be a third-party endorsement that triggers trust. The brain's wired. Humans are wired to follow authority figures, follow the experts. I mean, think about your doctor. You need to do this. Okay. When someone accepts you as the expert, as the authority, there's very little persuasion resistance. And that's why you're using testimonials, recommendations. Then there's the law of connectivity. That's one of the 12 laws of persuasion. Likability. The fastest way to become likable, to connect with people, is similarity. We've talked about that on the podcast. When you have the same background, values, experience with the same college, like the same sports teams, been on the same committee, there's a connection. There's some similarity. Smokers hang out with smokers. Maybe your child likes soccer, they play soccer. Maybe they're around the same age. There's a similarity there. You can find something in common with anybody you meet. I mean, again, sometimes you have to stretch. Breathing air, both like food. Hopefully something a little bit better than that. Something relevant to them. Not, oh, you're a Gemini. Something that they care about. Maybe they do. If they do, use it. So the studies are clear. You could build rapport, you connect by finding common ground quickly. And use that in your language. You know, people like us. Well, we both value are things that you can use. Now, another interesting one is known as obligation or reciprocity. Give something away. A small, valuable piece of information, advice, teach them something new, an insight, a resource. If it's appropriate, pick up the restaurant bill. If it's appropriate, take them golfing or whatever they love to do. This is in every culture of the world. You can go to the middle of the rainforest in Brazil, and if you do something for someone, give someone a compliment, you help them out, they feel obligated to help you out. The brain feels compelled to return the favor, which makes the person more open to your requests. So what can you give away of value? Again, advice, insight, resource, physical object. Teach them something new, an exclusive insight. Any of those will work. Talked about SaaS companies earlier, those tech companies. They're famous for giving away free tools just enough to get you on board, to prove their worth, get them on the top of the list, and it primes that reciprocity. Then I also mentioned visual or images. Now, it doesn't have to be like a poster. It could be an image. It could be a video. It could be a visual aid. It could be a PowerPoint. Whatever situation you're in, it works because visual stimuli, your brain, the way it processes it, it's faster, it's more memorable, and has a bigger impact on the brain. And not only that, it creates a strong emotional impact and a positive prime. So use proper images that show success and happiness and solutions. Maybe you want to start with the after picture before the before picture. I mean, eventually you want to contrast both of those together. Maybe you want to talk about the solution, that after picture, before a devastating before picture. In fact, the Journal of Consumer Psychology, they're looking at how effective advertising was. And when they used visual priming, they kept it positive. It was more successful. So there you have it. That's how you prime the persuasion pump. Get the faster yes, reduce the resistance. That's our podcast for today. Take something you've learned, master it and use it. It makes a difference. Put it in your toolbox. It will make a huge difference in your life. So make sure you've taken your free Persuasion IQ assessment. I will put that in the link. We'll continue with our special of 111 sales hacks. I'm always adding to it. Pretty simple. 3, 4, 5-minute lesson. Here's the technique. Here's the science. Here's how you use it. Here's how you apply it. You can do one a day, one a week, however you want to do it. Click on the link because these skills will change everything in your life. So become more influential, become a better negotiator, get more tools, and go out and persuade with power.